Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you. Sasuke Shinden, the teacher's star pupil. Chapter 5. The Holy Master said we go to heaven if we die for Shinden. I wonder if I will. I've lived my whole life, all these years, caring for nothing but Shinden. The Holy Master and the brethren hate me. They think I'm a traitor. But I was trying to do what's best for us all. I wonder if God will understand. Or will God send me to hell like the Master would? Either way's fine. At any rate, I'll know soon enough. When she opened her eyes and saw water cutting diagonally across the gloom before her, Lily understood that she was in neither heaven nor hell. It wasn't the water that was diagonal, but her, lying not a bed but a wall. To her right, a broken fluorescent light on the ceiling was close enough for her to touch if she reached for it. She had leaped into the sinking ship, and yet she had somehow managed to survive. I know I have terrible luck, but this is ridiculous. You awake? Oh. Lily jumped at the sudden voice. She turned to see the cheery blue eyes of Uzumaki Boruto, the person she had lied to and taken advantage. You saved me? Yup, he replied casually. Don't move too much. It could bring half the ship down on our heads. She surveyed their surroundings. They appeared to be inside an air pocket in the upper part of the skew cabin. The water level hasn't changed for a while, so we're maybe done sinking for now, Boruto said. If we just sit tight, old man Sasuke'll come rescue us. You really trust him, huh? He is my master, after all. They fell silent again. Lily bent her knees to sit in the small space between the water and the wall and stared absently at container fragments and chunks of wood. Next to her, Boruto was feigning indifference, but she knew he was watching her like a hawk. Why did this kid rescue me? Hey, why is it called Shinden? He asked, out of the blue. Huh? I mean, the moon's usually silver, right? But Shigetsu means purple moon. How come? Because that's how it looks, Lily replied, not looking at him. In the fall, in the water around the island where I grew up, the plankton multiply all at once, and the sea turns this reddish color. When it does, the reflection of the moon in the water has this purple tinge to it. The purple full moon's so beautiful, shimmering on the surface of the sea, cloaked in white waves. Our ancestors saw the presence of God in it. That was the start of Shinden. She clamped her mouth shut. In her joy at being asked about her home, she'd let herself go into far too much detail. Wow! Is that what happened? Boruto's admiration sounded so innocent. Huh. So you guys like the night sky? What? Lily frowned. Your piercings are like a constellation, he pointed out. Saying nothing, she turned her palm upward and lowered her hand into the water. The surface shimmered and moved, lapping gently at her hand. The skin on her fingertips was twisted in a spiral shape like burned scars. Boruto had seen that spiral shape before. He'd once read that this sort of scar came from the heat generated by electrical current passing through the body. It even had a name. Lightning Crest, he muttered. Lily glanced his way before nodding slightly. Yeah. You probably already guessed it, but my specialty is controlling other people with bioelectrical current. That's how I snuck out of house arrest, too. I got these crests during my training. Is the ability hereditary? Boruto asked. It's learned. She pulled her hand from the water and waved it lightly, sending droplets scattering. To acquire the technique, though, you need to practice actually sending current into a human being. Every single day, day after day, I fired electricity at my master. I was 9 when I started training, and by the time I finally mastered it, I was 14. And your master? My dad. The leader of Shinden. My teacher. Even now, Her very core grew dull and heavy when she remembered those days. It had been such extreme training. Firing bolts of electricity at her own father had made little Lily cry. But her iron-fisted teacher had forced her to train, hitting her over and over until her tears stopped. He happily offered up his own body for the sake of his daughter's growth. For 5 years, she lived immersed in this daily hell. She was too inexperienced to properly control lightning style. She would sometimes even stop her teacher's heart with too strong a current. But even that pleased him. You have a talent for lightning style. It is a gift from God, so you can be of use to Shigetsu Shinden. As he spoke, his face was free from care, even innocent. He had probably already been planning the attack on the neighboring land of fire. Maybe he hasn't been in his right mind for a long time now, she thought. Or maybe all that lightning style I poured into him made him lose his grip. After I learned how to manipulate bioelectrical currents, it was decided that I would be sent to the village of Konohagakure. That was my break with my teacher. I insisted that the best strategy was for me to first make myself a part of the village and gain some position of influence, like as a manga artist or an actor or an idol. Once I had the ears of the people, I could teach them about Shigetsu Shinden. But my master, her voice grew quieter. He wasn't interested in spending any time on a real mission. He didn't want to send me to the land of fire as a missionary, as someone patiently building an audience and winning people over to our cause, but as a spy to inflict immediate damage. We argued about this over and over and over until finally, I fled the island alone. So you really did come to Konoha to become an idol? Boruto asked. Then that explosion on the thunder train. They targeted the train because I was on it, with my master personally leading an elite squad. But that attack didn't end with my death, but my master's instead. He died? Boruto furrowed his brow. When he was fighting your master, he got caught up in a comrade's technique, she told him. Forced out of the carriage by a member of Shigetsu Shinden, Lily had been rescued by Sasuke. Then she had seen the body skewered on the ceiling. The man pierced by the steel pillar, the man with the bib, Lily's master. Lily's father. I knew they'd come for me again, so I figured I'd use that. She shrugged. And that's why I asked you to be my bodyguards. Because you thought we'd mess it up? He asked. No. Because you're the Hokage's son. A mix of emotions flitted across Boruto's face. I was going to take control of you and then show the audience you were a stand-in. The fans wouldn't be mad at me, the innocent idol, if the Hokage's son made a mess of my concert. I thought if I got the brunt of the outrage focused on a ninja protecting the village, it would do more to make the land of fire look bad than indiscriminately killing civilians, given that your country is supposed to be a symbol of prosperity and development. So that was your plan all along? He asked. The concert was a failure, so I wanted to take you down this time for sure. I came after the ship, but I knew you'd scan the inside with the Sharingan first. So I glued myself to the hull for a while. Once I saw you all moving, I came inside. And then you controlled me again. She shrugged. Boruto let out a sigh and looked at her in exasperation as he grumbled, "Did you guys seriously think you could crush Konoha with such cowardly methods? If you've got the time and energy to attack others, use it to make your own island better." You're right. Lily lowered her eyes. But, people are motivated by emotion, you know? I don't think I was right or anything. But the one thing I inherited from my master is a loyalty to my home. In the end, I couldn't walk away. Even when that master tried to kill you? Boruto asked, incredulous. No. The strength drained out of her suddenly, and she leaned back against the wall. She felt like it was harder to breathe now, maybe because she had confessed her guilt. Even still, Lily continued to explain herself to Boruto as she took shallow breaths. Education is important. We're basically monkeys when we're born. The fact that we're able to live rich, cultured lives is because we're educated. We're taught everything our ancestors learned before us. For better or for worse, we're We're slaves to the education we get from our parents and our society. Could you kill your comrades if your group told you to? He asked. Of course, she replied without hesitation. We think death is honorable. If you die fighting to spread the teachings of Shinden, you go to heaven. I don't really get it. Boruto felt creeped out by Lily's words somehow. But it's like, I dunno. Like, leaving your life or death to the group, it's just not fair. Not fair? Lily cocked her head curiously to one side. Boruto continued falteringly, finding this subject almost too much for him. I mean, ninja, we're changing with the times, too, you know? My dad, the principal at the academy, everyone says so. Back in the old days, it would have been unthinkable to have a policy of capturing enemies instead of killing them whenever possible. But we live in an era of peace now, so we have the breathing room to do that kind of stuff. They say you gotta change with the times. Although all that stuff was before I was born, so I don't really know. Boruto lifted his face. The bright eyes he inherited from his father, eyes that were so much brighter than his father's, stared straight at Lily. And then I guess what's left is a mix of the old stuff with the new stuff, adapted for us to use it now. I dunno. For me. Lily took a shallow breath. I have such a hard time accepting that kind of thinking. I grew up having it beaten into me that our mission is to protect our doctrine, the religion that's been passed down for hundreds of years. I kinda get that, too, Boruto said slowly, staring at the dark water. I used to totally hate science. I thought I'd never be okay with it. But old man Sasuke taught me all kinds of stuff, and it's like, I've started thinking that maybe it's not so bad as all that. Although there's still loads of stuff I can't accept. So. What? She challenged. Are you trying to say you managed to change, so I can, too? No, that's not exactly it. Boruto fumbled for the words. He hated science. That feeling hadn't changed. But even so, maybe he had to start taking steps toward it. It was only since Sasuke became the master of Team 7 that he'd started thinking like this. We just had different educations, huh? Lily said, sounding jealous somehow as she looked at Boruto. I wanted to think freely the way you do. But it's too late now. She took a deep breath. I can't change now. But yeah, the generation after me, I'm sure they'll adapt. I want to believe that. Someone knocked on the roof. Boruto? You in there? It was Mitsuki. Boruto heaved a sigh of relief and sidled up to the ceiling. Mitsuki. I'm here. You sound okay. What about Lily? I'm here, Lily said awkwardly. Thank goodness. Listen carefully, both of you. Mitsuki started. Speaking faster. Sasuke froze the area around the ship with ice style so it wouldn't sink, but it looks like there's a big hole in the fuel tank. He says the oil might spill out into the ocean if we leave it like this. Seriously? Boruto yelled. And so, the ship's going to fly in a minute. Can you fire your Rasengan straight down and escape once the ship's been in the air for 10 seconds? Boruto and Lily exchanged a look, forgetting for a moment the situation they were in. What? The boat's going to fly? Amazing. It really is frozen. Sarada shivered at the cold air rising up around her. A massive lump of ice neatly surrounded the boat floating in the ocean. When she leaned forward and looked over the side of the boat, she had the strange sensation she was riding on top of a massive mountain of ice. Isn't salt water supposed to be hard to freeze? She asked, looking back at her father on the deck. You know your stuff, Sasuke admired. I didn't actually freeze the ocean water. First, I generated pure water with water style, and then I turned that water into ice. You changed the water to ice? How? He paused a moment. It's a matter of imagination. The way water molecules move in relation to each other is what makes them water. And when the molecules are more tightly linked, they become ice. He turned the palm of his hand upward. Water began spilling out from between his fingers like a fountain. In an instant, it was frozen solid. Conversely, if the molecules separate from each other and start to move freely, that is steam. As if in response to his words, the frozen water melted, then evaporated, without leaving a single drop behind. "It's gone," Sarada gasped. "An application of water style," he told her. "A man I met once called Haku used changes in wind and water at the same time to generate ice. But that was a special technique, passed down within a single clan. Only they could master it. If you train, though, it's possible to do this much at least, even if you're not a member of the clan." "I get it. That was actually pretty easy to understand, Dad, unlike your usual lessons," Sarada quipped. Sasuke smiled slightly. "We should get started." "Okay." She ran to the prow of the ship where the massive anchor hung. "Are you sure you can lift it?" "Don't push yourself," he was about to say, and then relaxed abruptly. Sarada yanked the anchor up with both hands. "This is nothing. You take after your mother," he said. Sarada turned a proud smile toward him. She hoisted the heavy anchor over her shoulder. The anchor was attached to the ship by a chain. The chain and its fastenings were frozen solid with Sasuke's ice style. "Which way should I throw it, Dad?" she asked. "Wherever you'd like. I'll follow your lead." Feeling reassured, Sarada readjusted her grip on the anchor. Lawrence's gun, tackled by father and daughter. But it wouldn't be a kunai that went flying. It would be the ship's anchor. They would make the anchor fly, dragging the whole ship along with it before exploding the whole unit in midair to dispose of it. If they could burn it to ash with ultra-hot flames, they could limit the damage to some ash on the ocean surface, which was far better than the oil leaking out into the water. Sasuke looked back at the battered deck. Somewhere inside the frozen boat, there was a very stupid girl who had willingly jumped into the fissure in the deck and an idiot boy who'd gone after her without giving a thought to his own life. He had to save them and tell them not to be so reckless. It was his responsibility as Boruto's teacher. Standing at the railing on the prow, Sarada lifted the anchor above her shoulders. "Here we go, Dad." "Anytime." She sank down and took a deep breath before throwing the anchor as hard as she could. "Take that." The steel anchor flew into the air, pulling the chain along with it. From the palms of his open hands, Sasuke shot 2 crackling bolts of electricity. The instant the electricity hit it, the anchor shot off faster than the humanoid could follow. The chain snapped straight, and the block of ice around the boat began to creak and groan. A heartbeat later, the ice shattered, and the boat floated up. The sky grew larger before their eyes. Sarada staggered backwards. Sasuke caught her by the arm. The massive ship slid along in the sky, yanked forward by the flying anchor. There was a sudden weightlessness that made Boruto's stomach rise up inside of him. A moment later, the force of gravity returned twice as strong. Holding Lily with one hand and kneading his chakra with the other, Boruto counted. 6, 7, 8. The ship began to creak and groan, unable to withstand its own weight and speed as it flew through the air. It was only a matter of time before it was yanked apart. 9. 10. Boruto turned his chakra into turbulent air and threw it down with his everything he had. The roar of the lower half of the ship ripping away nearly shattered his eardrums. Lily might have been screaming beside him, but he couldn't hear anything. The shattered boat scattered to the wind. And then so did Boruto and Lily. Far below them, he could see the dark ocean. As they fell, Boruto scanned the water's surface. Off in the distance, there was something like an ice shelf, likely the flying ship's launch point. A narrow bridge of ice stretched out from the shelf, and on top of it, he could see Mitsuki casually waving to them with one hand. Next to him, the men in purple from the boat were tied together. If he could avoid the frozen parts and use wind style to create a cushion before they hit the water, they should come out of this unscathed. The problem was that it wasn't just him, he had to keep Lily alive, too. He didn't know whether he could slow them down without ripping them apart. The odds were 50-50. No other choice now. Boruto gritted his teeth. He was getting ready to try when flames suddenly exploded in the sky above them. He looked in time to see the ship swallowed up by an explosion of such force it looked like it would reach the moon. The black flames would not go out until every last bit of the ship was consumed. Sasuke's Inferno-style flame control. Boruto didn't need anyone to tell him that the two shadows leaping from the burning boat were Sasuke and Sarada. Sasuke held Sarada's arm as he chased after Boruto and Lily, adjusting the air resistance with his chakra. Once they were alongside Boruto, he tossed Sarada out and reached his hand out. "Boruto, give me Lily." He smiled at Boruto's hesitation. "Don't worry. I won't hurt her." "Really?" Boruto asked. "You don't trust your master?" "That's no fair," he muttered and passed Lily to Sasuke. Perhaps from sheer terror, Lily had at some point lost consciousness. "Dad! The water's coming up on us!" Sarada shouted. To soften the impact of the water landing, all three ninja turned their wind style toward the ocean, the gusts pushing deep into the surface of the water. There was a single large splash followed by two smaller ones. They all popped up to the surface again at the same time. Epilogue. Boruto and his teammates looked up at the large screen hanging above the New Town intersection. So Sasuke's decision to suspend the concert was the right one? For the people of Konoha, yes. That extremist group was planning to bring their fight to the dome. I have no doubt that innocent people would have been killed if the show had continued. And you were once a member of this group, is that right, Lily? I was. I disagreed with their methods, however, so I left. But I still held a grudge against the Hokage. I was determined to bring his standing down in the public eye. Was that why you became an idol then? Yes. That's exactly right. Himino Lily was being interviewed. The fact that she had been allowed to do the live broadcast was quite extraordinary. Celebrity or not, she had committed a serious crime. Seriously, it totally sucks she turned out to be a criminal. I was halfway to being a fan even. Like, I knew Sasuke was a good guy right from the start. A hot old guy like that, there's no way he could be a baddie. Right? I mean, he's super cool, and so strong too. I believe Lily, though. This is all a shinobi conspiracy. As he listened in on the people passing by him in the intersection, Boruto grinned. Everyone had their own ideas about all the recent goings on. Lily herself had asked for the interview. She wanted to stand up in a public forum and tell people what had actually happened to clear away any misunderstandings. The ninja had raised their eyebrows at the request. Who knew what would happen when the person at the center of the commotion stepped into the spotlight again? They would have a real problem on their hands if someone with as much influence as Lily were to say something extreme or careless on a live broadcast, and they were offended by the very notion of allowing a criminal to appear on TV. After careful deliberation, the council naturally rejected Lily's request, but in a surprise move, the Hokage overturned their decision and gave her permission to go ahead with the interview. "Lily seems more relaxed now somehow," Sarada said. "She kinda looks relieved," Boruto agreed. Sitting on the sofa, Lily wore jeans and a simple, unbleached shirt rather than one of her usual frilly, ribbon-laden dresses. The hair on her head was her own close-cropped cut, which allowed a full view of the piercings in her ears. The overall effect was a neat chicness, an entirely different look from the idol Himino Lily. That plan failed because the ninjas of Konoha interfered. Those same ninjas saved me when I tried to kill myself in a moment of despair. I asked for this interview because I wanted to express my gratitude to them. And because it seems that people have gotten the wrong idea about Sasuke, and I wanted to make clear what actually happened. There was no mention of the fact that the ringleader behind all of this had come out of the Shippuden. This too was the Hokage's work. He had no intention of rejecting the entire Shigetsukidan community. He wanted to deepen their mutual solidarity. For the Shigetsukidan followers to maintain their religion going forward, they would need to leave behind their exclusionary dogma and change to work with the outside world. The Hokage was hoping that Lily would help build that bridge. And her testimony had indeed been crucial in arresting the remainder of the extremist group. I guess the people of Shigetsu Island have accepted what happened surprisingly smoothly, Mitsuki said, looking up at the large screen. This really was just the work of an out-of-control extremist group. It looks like not everyone in Shigetsukidan hates the land of fire. I hope we can coexist somehow. Guess we just have to leave it to the Hokage and the Mizukage, huh? Sarada said, and glanced at her watch. Oh. Yikes. If we don't get going, Master Konohama will get out before we get there. Dang. We better hurry up. Boruto shot off, and Sarada and Mitsuki chased after him. No longer in need of crutches, Konohamaru stood on his own feet and looked down at the courtyard from his window. Steam rose from the mug in his hand. Black coffee. He put more effort into brewing properly than usual. He celebrated his own complete recovery with the fragrant aroma of the freshly ground beans and the deep bitter taste. A gentle breeze came in through the window to caress his cheeks. And then the whirlwind of his own beloved students blew in to shatter this silent, peaceful moment. Master Konohamaru. We came to visit. Boruto shouted. You're too late, dummy, Konohamaru sighed. I'm going home today. Brats. Noisy as ever. He looked back in exasperation and set his mug down on the side table. We know. That's why we came. Sarada skipped into the room next, holding up a familiar paper bag and smiling. We wanted you to have some strawberry daifuku this time for sure. It's to celebrate your release, Mitsuki added, closing the door behind him. The look on Konohamaru's face wavered faintly at the word strawberry daifuku. Teach that so? Well, you did come all the way here. Sit, stay a while, hey. They had already sat themselves down and were excitedly opening the box of daifuku, releasing the sweet, tart scent of the cakes into the room. Smiling faintly, Konohamaru watched his happy students distribute the confections. This time, he noticed, they'd only brought one for each of them. To your health. Boruto grabbed a daifuku and stuffed it in his mouth. As Konohamaru was reaching for the last daifuku in the box, there came a knock at the door. Come in. Boruto called. Sasuke entered. Konohamaru snapped to attention at the appearance of this unexpected visitor. I heard you were being released today, he said. I came to check in on you before I set out. Thank you, Konohamaru replied. I'll be back at work tomorrow. Oh. Old man Sasuke, you want a strawberry daifuku? Boruto immediately offered him the last cake, and Konohamaru very nearly screamed. Boruto. That's my daifuku. No, I'll pass. Sasuke shook his head. I don't care for sweets. Or natto, Sarada added. Oh yeah? Too bad. Okay then, I guess I'll eat it. The words had no sooner left his mouth than Boruto was tossing the daifuku into his mouth. Konohamaru groaned. Boruto was already chewing, swallowing. My strawberry daifuku. He only allowed himself to despair for an instant. When Uchiha Sasuke comes to visit, it is not time to fixate on daifuku. He quickly pulled himself together. You heading out again? Boruto asked. Sasuke nodded. This mission looks like it will go long. Be careful, okay, Dad? Sarada said brightly and grabbed the edge of Sasuke's cloak. She was proud of her father and the way he kept the village safe, but her cheerfulness was half-baked. She no longer felt anxious about her father's absences the way she used to as a child. She understood that the protection he offered them was the reason the village of Konoha was at last at peace. Even so, she couldn't help feeling sad about the fact that she couldn't be with her father, even if it was for the sake of his missions. She looked up at his expressionless face with envy. End of Sasuke Shinden, the teacher's star pupil. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.